I never thought a single piece of paper could change the course of my life. But that afternoon, lying weak on a hospital bed, a folded note slipped into my hand carried words that froze my veins. "Don't return home, escape now." I stared at it, my fingers trembling, my heart pounding so hard I thought the machines around me would start beeping. My doctor, Dr. Mira, didn't meet my eyes. She just adjusted my IV line, whispered something polite about rest, and walked out of the room, leaving me trapped between confusion and terror. Why would she, my own doctor, warn me against stepping back into my house? What danger was waiting there? Tell me in the comments where you're listening from. That morning had already been strange. I had collapsed in my kitchen, dizzy, breathless, while preparing tea for my husband, Raghav. He had barely reacted, muttering something about being late for a meeting as he left me lying on the cold floor. It was the maid who called the ambulance, not him. And now, hours later, here I was, clutching a note like it was the only thread of truth in a world that had suddenly tilted. I folded it quickly, sliding it under the thin hospital blanket as a nurse walked in. I didn't trust anyone at that moment. Not until I understood what game was being played. The next hour stretched like a nightmare. I kept replaying Raghav's recent behavior, his sudden mood swings, the late-night calls he would silence when I entered the room, the smell of perfume on his shirts that wasn't mine. At first I thought it was stress. Business troubles, maybe? But now, after this note, I felt a darker shadow looming. By evening, they discharged me. I signed the papers with a shaking hand, my eyes scanning the corridor. Dr. Mira wasn't there. She hadn't explained a single word. Just that note. Just that warning. As I stepped outside, the wind felt colder than usual. My phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from Raghav. No messages asking if I was okay. Just missed calls. My stomach churned. Should I go home? Should I listen to the note? The driver dropped me at the end of our lane. I told him I needed to walk a little, pretending my body needed the stretch. Truth was, I didn't want to arrive directly in front of the gate. I needed to see first. To observe. It was already dark. Our house stood at the corner, its lights glowing warmly like nothing was wrong. But parked outside was a sleek black car I didn't recognize. Raghav's friends never visited without notice, and that wasn't his. My pulse quickened. I moved closer, quietly, the way a thief might. From the half-open window I heard voices, laughter, Raghav's deep chuckle, and then a woman's giggle, soft, teasing. My throat closed. He had never laughed like that with me. Not in years. I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear more. Her voice, sharp yet seductive, spoke of things only 2 people sharing a secret could discuss. I caught fragments. Words like papers, soon, and she'll never see it coming. They clinked glasses. My stomach twisted at the thought of them drinking together in my living room, the same place where my son had celebrated birthdays, where my father's photograph still hung. Betrayal isn't always a stab in the back. Sometimes it's laughter in your own house, laughter you're not part of. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. I wanted to record to capture proof, but the angle was wrong, the voices too muffled. One wrong move and they'd see me. I backed away, my slippers crunching softly against the gravel. My body begged me to run, but my heart wanted to storm inside, to rip open the door, to confront them both. But then I remembered the note. Don't return home, escape now. This wasn't just about infidelity. Something larger was happening. Something dangerous. I hurried down the lane, away from the glow of my house, away from the voices that tore at my chest. My eyes stung with unshed tears, but anger simmered underneath. At the corner, I almost bumped into my neighbor, Mrs. D'Souza, carrying her grocery bags. She squinted at me. Anita? Why are you out so late? Shouldn't you be resting? I forced a weak smile, hiding the storm raging inside me. Just needed fresh air, I murmured, praying she wouldn't notice my trembling hands. She nodded, but her sharp eyes lingered a second too long. I knew she would gossip by morning. I walked faster, my mind spinning. I needed answers. I needed someone I could trust. My fingers hovered over my phone. My childhood friend Nisha, always practical, always protective, was the only person who came to mind. I unlocked my phone and froze. The screen lit up with a notification from my bank app. Large withdrawal alert, Rs5 7000. My breath caught in my throat. I never authorized that. My thumb shook as I opened the app, scrolling through the transactions. One after another, amounts I hadn't touched were gone. Transferred to accounts I didn't recognize. My chest burned. Was Raghav stealing from me? From the inheritance my late father left? I leaned against the cold metal railing of the street, struggling to breathe. The night air pressed heavy on my lungs. Betrayal wasn't enough for him. He was stripping me of everything. And suddenly, the doctor's note made perfect sense. It wasn't about my health. It wasn't about rest. It was about survival. That night, under the dim yellow streetlight, I made a silent vow. I would not be their victim. I would not walk blindly into their trap. But first, I needed proof. And I needed allies. I clutched my phone tighter, whispering into the darkness. Raghav, you think I'm weak, but you have no idea what I'll do when cornered. I took one last look at the faint glow of my house in the distance. Inside, they were laughing, drinking, plotting. Outside, I was breaking, yet building something stronger than they ever imagined. And as I turned away, heart pounding, one thought repeated in my head like a warning bell. This is only the beginning. With her marriage crumbling, her finances under attack, and betrayal unfolding in her own home, Anita walks away into the night, staring at the shocking bank alert on her phone, knowing the worst discovery is still to come. I couldn't tear my eyes from the glowing screen of my phone. The numbers stared back at me, mocking me. Money gone. My father's money. Money that was meant to protect me. And my son. The night air felt colder, sharper. My fingers trembled so badly I almost dropped the phone. The warning note, the laughter I'd heard inside my house, and now this. Everything connected into one chilling truth. Raghav wasn't just cheating. He was dismantling my life piece by piece. I walked aimlessly through the dimly lit street, the sound of my slippers scraping against the pavement. I didn't dare go back home. The walls I once called safe now felt like a cage. Every shadow made me flinch. Every echo of laughter in my mind sliced deeper. I needed a place to think. A place where I wouldn't break. So I called Nisha. Her voice, groggy but concerned, came through the line. Anita, it's late. Are you okay? My throat tightened. The words barely slipped out. I can't go home, please, I need you. There was silence for a moment, then her tone sharpened. Where are you? Send me your location. I'll come get you. For the first time that evening, I felt a flicker of relief. Someone was still on my side. By the time Nisha's car pulled up, my body was stiff from the cold. She rushed out, wrapping her arms around me, her warmth breaking the frozen shell I'd built around myself. What happened? She whispered. I couldn't speak at first. The words were jagged shards in my throat. But once they came, they poured out like a flood. The doctor's note. The laughter. The car outside my gate. The strange woman's voice. The bank alert. Nisha listened, her jaw tightening with each detail. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to soften the truth. When I finished, she simply said, Get in the car. You're not staying there tonight. Her apartment was small but comforting. The moment we stepped inside, she locked the door twice, then guided me to the couch. I sat down, clutching my bag like a lifeline. Nisha placed a steaming cup of tea in front of me. You need strength, she said firmly. But Anita, we can't just sit here. We have to know what he's doing. Her words stirred something inside me. She was right. Crying wouldn't save my father's inheritance. It wouldn't protect my son. So together in the glow of her laptop, we began to dig. I logged into my bank account again, showing her the suspicious withdrawals. She leaned forward, frowning. These accounts, see? They're linked to shell companies. I've seen this before. People use them to hide money. My stomach churned. But why? Why would he? Nisha's eyes hardened. Because he's planning something bigger. And he doesn't want you to have anything left when it happens. I stared at the screen, the truth cutting deeper with every number. It wasn't just about love. It wasn't even just about betrayal. It was greed. Cold, calculated greed. The clock struck midnight, but we didn't stop. Nisha guided me through emails, old account statements, even Raghav's business records. Each click uncovered another layer of deceit. Transfers disguised as consulting fees. Payments to a company registered in Kavya's name, the same name I'd overheard in the laughter. My blood boiled. That woman wasn't just stealing my husband. She was stealing my life. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A new message. My hands shook as I opened it. Stop digging, or you'll regret it. No name, just those words. I showed it to Nisha, my breath caught in my chest. She grabbed the phone, her eyes flashing. He knows, or she knows. Whoever sent this, they're watching you. Fear crawled up my spine, but anger burned hotter. Let them watch, I whispered. I won't stop. The next morning, I barely slept. My eyes were swollen, my mind racing, but I had no choice but to go back, if only to see my son, Arav. He would be waking soon, needing his mother. Nisha tried to stop me. It's dangerous, Anita. You don't know what they're planning. I know, I said quietly, but I can't abandon my child. I returned just after dawn. The unfamiliar car was still there, parked boldly outside my gate. My chest tightened as I walked up the driveway, forcing myself to look calm. Inside, the house smelled of last night's alcohol and perfume. My stomach turned. I crept through the living room, glasses still on the table, lipstick stains mocking me from the rim. The sound of footsteps made me freeze. It was Arav. My sweet boy, rubbing his eyes, holding his teddy bear. He smiled when he saw me, unaware of the storm brewing around him. Mama, where were you? Daddy said you were sick. I hugged him tightly, fighting back tears. I'm here now, sweetheart. From the hallway, I heard Raghav's voice, groggy yet sharp. Anita. He appeared, his hair messy, his shirt unbuttoned, his eyes narrowing as he saw me holding Arav. For a brief second, surprise flickered on his face. Then came the smirk, the same smirk that once charmed me but now made my skin crawl. You're back early, he said casually, as if nothing had happened. Feeling better? His words were sugar-coated poison. I wanted to scream, to throw the note and the bank records in his face. But I stayed silent. I had to. Not yet. Breakfast was tense. Arav chattered innocently about school projects while Raghav scrolled through his phone, pretending everything was normal. I forced myself to smile, to sip my tea, though my insides twisted with rage. When Arav left for school, the silence was suffocating. Raghav looked up, his eyes calculating. You should rest today, he said smoothly. Don't strain yourself. I nodded, keeping my face blank. But inside, I was memorizing every word, every tone. He was hiding something, and I would uncover it. Later that afternoon, I noticed something unusual. While tidying up, I found a crumpled receipt tucked under the sofa cushion. It was from a luxury jewelry store, dated 2 days ago. A necklace worth more than I had ever spent on myself. My hands clenched around the paper. He hadn't bought me jewelry in years. My mind painted the image vividly. Raghav sliding the necklace around Kavya's neck, his fingers brushing her skin the way they once brushed mine. The betrayal burned deeper than fire. That evening, I tried calling Nisha, but she was caught up at work. I paced the floor, restless, my nerves stretched thin. Every creak of the house made me flinch. Every glance at Raghav made me sick. After dinner, I slipped into Arav's room, watching him sleep peacefully. I promised myself I would protect him no matter what, even if it meant destroying the man I once loved. By midnight, the house was quiet. I couldn't sleep, so I wandered into the study. That's when I noticed a drawer slightly open. My heart raced as I pulled it wider. Inside were documents, property, deeds, financial statements, all with my name, but marked with sticky notes in Raghav's handwriting. Words like transfer, urgent, and sign soon. My hands shook as I read line after line. He was planning to strip me of everything. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind me. I shoved the papers back and closed the drawer, my heart hammering. It was Raghav, standing in the doorway, his eyes dark, unreadable. "What are you doing in here?" he asked softly, too softly. I forced a smile. "Looking for Arav's school report card. Thought I left it here." For a long moment, he stared at me, as if weighing my words. Then he nodded slowly, turning away. But I could feel it. He knew I was suspicious. That night, I barely closed my eyes. My body was in that house, but my soul was elsewhere, calculating, planning, burning with the need for answers. And when the first light of dawn crept through the curtains, I made a decision. I would not let Raghav or Kavya destroy me. I would uncover every secret, every lie, even if it meant tearing apart the family I once thought was mine. As Anita grips the receipt and remembers the documents in the study, she knows this is no longer about saving her marriage. It's about saving herself and her son. But just as she steals her resolve, her phone buzzes with a new notification. One new device logged into your email. Someone is already watching her every move. My phone buzzed again, the blue light glowing on the nightstand. One new device logged into your email. I froze. My breath caught. I hadn't logged in anywhere else. I knew instantly what it meant. Someone, most likely Raghav, was already inside my world, rummaging through my private thoughts, my documents, my letters from my late father. It wasn't enough for him to empty my bank accounts. He wanted to erase every place I could still stand. The next morning, I couldn't look him in the eye. Over breakfast, Raghav acted like nothing was wrong, asking Arav about school projects, pretending to be the perfect father. My son laughed innocently, and I forced myself to smile, though inside my heart was splitting. When Raghav left for work, I knew I had only a few hours of safety. I packed Arav's bag and sent him to school early, hugging him a little tighter than usual. He didn't notice the fear in my touch. The moment the gate closed behind him, I called Nisha. She answered on the second ring. "Anita? What happened now?" I whispered, almost afraid the walls could hear me. "He's in my email. He's watching everything." There was silence, then her voice hardened. "Pack a few things and come here. We'll figure this out together. But Anita, stop being scared. You need to fight." By afternoon, I was at her apartment again, sitting cross-legged on the floor while she opened her laptop. "First, change your passwords," she instructed. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she secured my accounts, but something else caught her attention. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a line of emails. Many were marked unread, but I knew I hadn't seen them before. They weren't from banks or shops. They were from Raghav's business partner. The subject lines chilled me. Contract transfer. Pending authorization. Final settlement. I opened one. My blood ran cold. It was about property, my father's property, being reassigned into Raghav's name. The attachments were scanned documents. My name was there, my signature crudely forged. I clapped a hand over my mouth, my stomach turning. "He's stealing everything, even the house." Nisha's jaw tightened. "He's preparing the ground. By the time he's done, you'll have nothing." We spent hours combing through every suspicious email. Each one was a nail in the coffin of the marriage I thought I had. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just lies. It was an orchestrated attack. At one point, Nisha leaned back, her eyes narrowing. "There's something strange. Look at these payments. They aren't just going to Raghav. Some are directed to another name, Kavya, and not just small amounts. Lakhs." The name hit me like a slap. The woman I had heard laughing with him. My hands shook as I scrolled. She's part of it. She's not just his mistress. She's his partner in crime. I felt heat rise to my face. It was humiliation, fury, heartbreak all twisted together. That evening, Nisha ordered food, but I could barely swallow. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the images. Raghav laughing with Kavya, forging my signature, plotting with his partner. I thought of Arav. What future would he have if I lost? Everything? Would Raghav and Kavya raise him in that poisoned house? Would my son grow up thinking betrayal was normal? No, I couldn't allow it. I pressed my palms to my face, whispering, I need evidence, real evidence. Otherwise, no one will believe me. Nisha leaned forward, her voice low but strong. Then we gather it. We don't confront him yet. We trap him. The next morning, I returned home. I had to pretend everything was fine, pretend I hadn't seen the documents, pretend I wasn't already plotting. My body trembled as I turned the key, but I forced a smile when Arav ran into my arms. Raghav was in the living room, phone pressed to his ear. He glanced at me and gave me that same calculated smirk. Back already? You look better. I nodded, saying nothing. Inside, my anger burned. That weekend, an opportunity came. Raghav left his laptop open while taking a call in the garden. My heart hammered as I approached it. I knew the risk. If he caught me, it would be over. The screen was on his email. I scrolled quickly, snapping pictures with my phone. Contracts, bank transfers. Even a message to Kavya. Once the papers are done, we'll finally be free. Free! The word pierced me. He wasn't freeing himself from me. He was freeing himself from the woman who had trusted him, from the family he'd promised to protect. My chest tightened, but I kept snapping pictures until I heard footsteps. I barely had time to shut the laptop before he walked in. His eyes lingered on me for a second too long. I forced a smile, looking for Arav's homework. He didn't respond. He just watched me, suspicion flickering in his gaze, then walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. My hands tingled with the weight of the evidence on my phone. But fear gnawed at me. Was it enough? Would the law believe me? At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed again. Another message. Curiosity kills. Stop now. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just threats anymore. It was a warning. Someone knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't reply. But I couldn't silence the storm raging inside me. The next day, I met Nisha at a cafe, sliding my phone across the table. I got these. She scrolled through the photos, her eyes widening. This is strong. But Anita, it's risky. He'll notice soon. You need a backup plan. Her words made sense, but my heart still ached. Why? Why would he do this? He has money, he has me, he has a family. Why destroy it? Nisha's face softened for the first time. Because men like him never stop at enough. Greed is endless. Later that evening, while Arav was drawing in his room, I overheard something that made my blood run cold. Raghav was on the phone, pacing the hallway. His voice was low but sharp. Yes, yes. She suspects nothing. The papers will be ready by next week. We'll move her out before she even realizes. Move me out! The words echoed in my mind like a death knell. I backed into the kitchen, pressing my palm against my mouth. He wasn't just taking my money. He was planning to throw me out, discard me like trash. I wanted to confront him right there. To scream, to demand answers. But then Arav's laughter floated from his room, sweet and innocent. I bit down on my tongue. I couldn't risk it, not yet. Instead, I grabbed my phone and sent Nisha a message. He's planning to throw me out. I need a lawyer. That night, when Raghav finally went to bed, I sat in the dark living room, staring at the shadows on the wall. Every corner of the house felt unfamiliar now. It wasn't home. It was a battlefield. I thought of Dr. Mira, the note she'd given me in the hospital. She knew something I still didn't. Maybe she had seen Raghav with Kavya. Maybe she knew more than she could say. I decided then I would go back to her. She had started this chain of warnings. Maybe she had the final piece I needed. The following morning, I woke with a strange calmness. Fear was still there, yes, but it was changing, turning into determination. I prepared Arav for school, kissed his forehead, and promised myself again I would protect him, no matter the cost. When Raghav left for work, I slipped out quietly, heading to the hospital. Dr. Mira was surprised to see me. Her eyes flickered with something, pity, maybe guilt. I sat down in her office, my hands gripping the armrests. "You knew," I whispered. "That's why you gave me the note. What do you know about my husband?" She hesitated, glancing at the door, lowering her voice. "Anita, I shouldn't get involved. But you need to be careful. Your husband. He's not who you think he is." My throat tightened. "What do you mean?" She sighed. "He came here before. Not with you. With another woman. They were discussing options. Options that didn't include you." Her words hit me like a storm. It wasn't just an affair. It was premeditated, cold, deliberate. I left the hospital shaking, the city around me spinning. Each step felt heavier than the last. As I reached home, my phone buzzed again. Another message. This one was different. "Check Arav's bag." My heart stopped. I rushed inside, tearing open my son's school bag. And there, hidden between his notebooks, was an envelope with my name written on it in Raghav's handwriting. Inside were unsigned divorce papers. Anita stares at the papers, her hands trembling. The betrayal is no longer a suspicion. It's a plan already in motion. And the cruelest part? He had hidden it in their son's bag, as if daring her to find it. The divorce papers slipped from my trembling hands and scattered across the floor. My knees buckled as I stared at them, my heart pounding in my ears. He hadn't just thought about discarding me. He had already written the end of my story, without my voice, without my consent. And the cruelest part, he had hidden them in Arav's bag, as if my son was nothing more than a messenger in his vicious game. That night I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just sat in the dark, replaying every moment of our marriage, every smile that now felt like a mask, every promise that had turned to poison. By morning, I knew I had to act. Sitting quietly would only make me his victim. I gathered the papers, shoved them into a folder, and called Nisha. When she arrived, I thrust the folder at her with shaking hands. Her eyes widened as she read. "He's not waiting, Anita, he's already moving. These are drafts. He'll try to file them soon." My chest tightened. And then what? He throws me out? Marries her? Raises my son in my house? Nisha reached across the table, gripping my hand. "Listen to me. You're stronger than this, but if you want to win, you'll need more than anger. You'll need allies." That weekend, the allies revealed themselves in a way I didn't expect. Raghav's mother called, her tone deceptively sweet. "Anita Beta, we're having a family gathering tomorrow. Everyone will be there. You must come with Arav. It's important." Important. The word dripped with something I couldn't trust. I hesitated, but then I realized this could be my chance. If Raghav wanted to humiliate me in front of the family, I would see his plan unfold with my own eyes. And maybe, just maybe, I could expose him instead. I agreed. The next evening, I dressed Arav in his neatest shirt, tying his shoelaces with hands that trembled. He looked up at me, his innocent eyes brimming with excitement. "Will Grandma make kheer?" My throat ached, but I forced a smile. "Maybe, sweetheart. Be on your best behavior." When we arrived, the house was already buzzing with voices. Raghav's uncles, cousins, distant relatives, all gathered in the living room, sipping tea, gossiping. The moment I stepped inside, conversations paused. Eyes turned. Some sympathetic, some curious, some cold. Raghav's mother approached me with a smile that never reached her eyes. She kissed Arav's forehead, then looked at me sharply. "Come, sit." The evening dragged on with forced pleasantries, but I could feel something simmering beneath the surface. Raghav avoided my gaze, speaking loudly to his uncles about business, about investments, about his new plans for the future. Finally, his mother cleared her throat, silencing the room. "We have an announcement." I felt my stomach knot. Raghav stood, his hand resting casually on the back of a chair. It's time we discuss some changes. For too long, things have been unbalanced. But soon everything will be in order. His words were vague, but his eyes, cold, triumphant, were directed at me. Then, before I could breathe, his mother added, "We all know how much Raghav has sacrificed, how much responsibility he carries. It is only fair that he takes full control of the property and assets moving forward, for the family's stability." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. My chest burned. They weren't just taking my husband from me. They were taking my inheritance, my father's legacy. I opened my mouth to speak, but Raghav cut me off. And as for personal matters, sometimes two people grow apart. It's no one's fault. It's just life. Anita will always be Arav's mother, but she and I... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. The meaning was clear. Gasps filled the room. Some relatives looked shocked. Others exchanged knowing glances. His mother nodded approvingly, as if she'd orchestrated this entire play. I felt the walls closing in. My throat was dry, my pulse hammering. But then, something inside me snapped. I stood, my voice trembling but loud enough to cut through the whispers. "You want to talk about sacrifices, Raghav? Fine, let's talk about lies. About forged documents. About money transferred behind my back." The room fell silent. Every eye was on me. I pulled out my phone, scrolling quickly, then thrust it toward the relatives nearest to me. "Here, look, his emails. His contracts." Every word dripping with betrayal. He's been stealing from me. From my father's property. From this family's name. Gasps, shock. A ripple of unease spread across the room. Raghav's face darkened, but before he could speak, I continued, my voice rising. "And it's not just money. He's planning to divorce me, quietly, without dignity. He even hid the papers in our son's school bag." A murmur of outrage burst through the gathering. Someone whispered, "In Arav's bag?" Shameful. Raghav's mother stood, her voice sharp. "Enough, you're twisting things. My son would never—" I cut her off, my anger boiling over. "Would never? Do you want to see the photos? The transfers to Kavya's account? The woman he parades around while still living under my roof?" The name landed like a stone thrown into a pond. Silence, then a wave of whispers. Raghav's composure cracked. He slammed his hand on the table. "This is private. You have no right." "No right?" My voice broke, but I didn't stop. "I had every right, Raghav. Every right to trust you. To believe you. To build a family with you. And you turned it into a battlefield." Tears blurred my vision, but my voice grew steadier with each word. "You thought you could trap me quietly. But tonight, everyone sees who you really are." For a long moment, the room was silent. No one moved. Then one of his uncles spoke softly. "If what she says is true, this is not just a family issue. This is criminal." Another added, "Forging signatures? That can't be ignored." Raghav's mother's face tightened. She looked at me with venom, then at her son with unease. Raghav clenched his fists, his jaw tight. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. I gathered Arav, who was sitting in the corner, confused and frightened. I hugged him tight, whispering in his ear, "It's okay, baby. Mama's here." Then I looked at the family one last time. "You wanted a show tonight? Here it is. But remember this, I won't be silent anymore." With that, I walked out, my legs trembling but my head held high. Outside, the night air felt cold but cleansing. Nisha was waiting in her car nearby, just as we had planned. I slid into the seat, clutching Arav, my body shaking with adrenaline. She looked at me, eyes wide. "Well?" I let out a shuddering breath. "They know now? The mask is off." Raghav's cornered. Nisha nodded slowly. "Good, but Anita, this is just the beginning. He won't stop. You've embarrassed him in front of everyone. Now he'll fight back harder." Her words sank deep into me. I knew she was right. Tonight was a victory, but it was also a declaration of war. That night, as I lay beside Arav in Nisha's guest room, listening to his soft breathing, I whispered to myself, he wanted to destroy me quietly. But I'll destroy his lies loudly. And when I'm done, he'll wish he never underestimated me. The family gathering had shattered the illusion of Raghav's perfect mask, but Anita now knew, humiliated and exposed, Raghav would strike back with more cruelty than ever. The night after the family gathering, I barely slept. I lay awake in Nisha's guest room, Arav's small hand clutching mine, his steady breathing the only thing anchoring me. But my mind refused to rest. Every word Raghav had spoken echoed inside me. Every smirk from his mother replayed in my head. They weren't done with me. They had lost the element of surprise, but I knew they would strike back. And the next blow would be harder. By morning, I forced myself to think clearly. I couldn't live on fear and adrenaline alone. If I wanted to survive, if I wanted to protect Arav, I needed more than accusations. I needed a strategy. That's when Nisha leaned across the breakfast table, her voice low but steady. "Anita, enough is enough. It's time you get legal help." Her words sank deep. Legal help, a lawyer. Someone who could turn my pain into power. My hands trembled as I stirred my tea. "Do you know someone I can trust?" She nodded. "Yes, his name is Mr. Sharma, family lawyer for years. Tough, sharp, and not afraid to fight men like Raghav." I hesitated. Lawyers meant courtrooms, fees, long battles. But then I looked at Arav, happily munching his toast, oblivious to the storm around him. And I knew I had no choice. That afternoon, I met Mr. Sharma. He was older, silver-haired, with eyes that missed nothing. His office smelled of leather and paper, the walls lined with files stacked neatly. He listened quietly as I poured my heart out, Raghav's betrayal, the forged signatures, the stolen money, the divorce papers hidden in Arav's bag. My voice cracked more than once, but he never interrupted. When I finished, he leaned back, fingers steepled under his chin. "You've been wronged, Anita, deeply. But remember this, feelings don't win in court. Evidence does." I pulled the folder from my bag, screenshots of bank transfers, copies of forged documents, photos Nisha had helped me save. My hands trembled as I slid them across the table. He examined them slowly, then nodded. "This is good, very good. We can build a case, but—" His eyes met mine, sharp and cautious. "You need to be prepared. Once we begin, he will fight like a cornered animal. Are you ready for that?" I swallowed hard. Fear coiled in my stomach. But then I remembered Raghav's laugh with Kavya, his smug face at the family gathering. I straightened my shoulders. "Yes, I'm ready." The next morning, I returned briefly to the house. Not to stay, but to gather what was mine. The air inside felt heavy, tainted. The walls that once held our laughter now reeked of deceit. I walked through each room, packing clothes, important documents, Arav's school books. When I entered the study, my heart lurched. The safe drawer was open, empty. The jewelry my parents had given me, gone. For a moment, my knees weakened. I gripped the desk for balance, rage burning through my veins. He had stripped me not just emotionally, but materially. Piece by piece, he was trying to erase me. But instead of breaking, I pulled out my phone and snapped pictures. The empty drawer, the scattered receipts. Proof. More proof. That weekend, Raghav made his move. A legal notice arrived at Nisha's flat, hand-delivered. He had filed for custody of Arav. My vision blurred as I read the words. He wanted to paint me as unstable, unfit. He wanted to rip my son away from me. I clutched the paper so hard it crumpled. Tears burned my eyes, but beneath them a fire roared. No. He could take the money. The jewelry. Even the house. But not my child. We rushed to Mr. Sharma's office. I shoved the notice at him, my voice shaking. "He wants Arav, he wants everything." Mr. Sharma read carefully, then exhaled. "Typical. A scare tactic. But don't worry, Anita. We'll counter. You have the stronger case. Financial records, proof of forgery, proof of infidelity. Courts don't look kindly on men like him." Still, my stomach twisted. I pictured Arav's innocent face, his small arms wrapping around my waist. The thought of losing him was unbearable. Mr. Sharma continued, his voice firm. "But you must stay calm. Don't lash out in anger. Don't give him ammunition. From now on, every step you take must be deliberate. Understand?" I nodded slowly. I was learning. This wasn't just about emotions anymore. It was a game of strategy, and I would not lose. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of paperwork, meetings, and late-night planning with Nisha. But just when I thought I had a grip, another blow landed. One evening, as I picked Arav up from school, his teacher pulled me aside. "Mrs. Anand, is everything okay at home?" My chest tightened. "Why do you ask?" She hesitated, glancing at Arav, then lowered her voice. "He's been withdrawn, quiet. Today he told another child that his father says you might be going away soon." The words sliced through me like a knife. My son, confused, frightened, already poisoned by Raghav's whispers. I forced a smile for the teacher, but inside I was shattering. That night, as I tucked Arav into bed, he looked up at me with wide, fearful eyes. "Mama, are you leaving me?" My heart broke. I gathered him into my arms, tears spilling silently down my cheeks. "No, baby, never. Don't believe anyone who tells you that. Mama will always be here." But as he drifted to sleep, his little hand gripping mine tightly, I swore an oath in the silence of the room. Raghav wasn't just attacking me anymore. He was attacking my child, and that I would never forgive. The next morning, I confronted him. I waited outside his office, my pulse racing, my palms damp. When he finally stepped out, flanked by colleagues, I blocked his path. His smirk was immediate. "Ah, Anita, making a scene, are we?" I shoved the notice into his chest. "How dare you drag Arav into this? He's not your pawn." He leaned in close, his voice a whisper, sharp as a blade. "Everything is a pawn, Anita. You..." "Him? Even your so-called evidence. You think you can beat me? Watch me destroy you piece by piece." For a second, fear gripped me, but then anger surged stronger. I met his gaze, my voice steady. "You've underestimated me, Raghav. That will be your downfall." I turned and walked away before my knees gave out. That evening, I called Mr. Sharma. My voice didn't tremble this time. "File it, file everything. I don't care how ugly it gets. He wants war, he'll have it." Mr. Sharma's reply was calm but resolute. "Then we'll give him no escape. By the time we're done, he'll be the one begging." The next week was a blur of depositions, affidavits, and strategy meetings. For the first time, I felt power shifting. For the first time, I wasn't just reacting, I was fighting back. But deep down, I knew the storm was only beginning. Anita has finally taken her stand, backed by her lawyer and hard evidence. But with Raghav dragging their son into the battle, the war is no longer just about betrayal or money. It's about who will control Arav's future. And the next move will determine everything. The decision was made. No more hesitation. No more silence. I had told Mr. Sharma to file everything, to drag every hidden sin of Raghav's into the light. And now, there was no turning back. The following week, the first hearing was scheduled. Just the thought of walking into that courtroom made my stomach twist. The place where my marriage, my motherhood, my dignity would all be debated like a case study. But I reminded myself, this was not just survival anymore. This was war. And I had every scar, every wound, every shred of evidence to prove I was not the victim they wanted me to be. That morning, I wore a simple pale blue sari. Not flashy, not weak. Just steady like the calm before a storm. As I held Arav's hand at the door, he looked at me with those wide, innocent eyes. "Mama, will you be okay?" My throat tightened, but I forced a smile. "Yes, baby." "Mama is stronger than you think." Nisha picked him up for school, and I left for court with Mr. Sharma by my side. The courthouse smelled of polished wood and tension. Lawyers in black coats rushed down hallways, clients whispered nervously, files clutched like weapons. And then, I saw him. Raghav, standing tall, his suit pressed, his smile sharp. Kavya was there too, sitting behind him, her lips curved in a smirk that made my skin crawl. For a moment, fear froze me. The same fear that had paralyzed me weeks ago when I first found that note in the hospital. But then I remembered Arav's trembling voice. "Mama, are you leaving me?" "No, not today, not ever." I straightened my back and walked past Raghav, my heels echoing on the floor. His eyes flickered with something, annoyance, maybe even surprise that I wasn't broken. Inside the courtroom, the judge presided with calm authority. Papers shuffled. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. Raghav's lawyer spoke first, painting him as a devoted father, a successful businessman, a man burdened by an unstable wife. Every word made my blood boil. Then it was our turn. Mr. Sharma stood, his voice steady but cutting. My client, Anita, has been the victim of systematic betrayal, financial, emotional, and familial. We will present evidence of forged documents, stolen assets, and an extramarital relationship that makes his claims of stability laughable. A ripple of murmurs moved through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. Proceed. The first piece of evidence was financial. Bank statements, transfers, and the forged signature on property papers. I watched Raghav's jaw tighten as each page was held up, each number revealed. Mr. Sharma's voice was like a blade. Your Honor, these transfers were made without Anita's consent. Funds moved secretly into accounts linked to Miss Kavya, who, as we can all see, is present in this courtroom. Gasps, heads turned. Kavya's smirk faltered. For the first time, the mask slipped. Then came the photographs, late-night meetings, the intimate dinners, the documents Kavya had signed in Raghav's presence. I couldn't even look at the screen when they displayed the images. My heart ached, my stomach twisted, but I held my chin high. Because this wasn't shame for me to carry. It was his. Raghav's lawyer tried to object, claimed it was misinterpretation, that the photos were harmless business dinners. But then, the final blow came. Mr. Sharma played the recorded audio. A conversation between Raghav and Kavya, intercepted legally, where they discussed removing Anita from the picture and making sure Arav adjusted quickly. The words cut deeper than any knife. But they also set the room on fire. The judge's expression hardened. Relatives in the gallery whispered in shock. Raghav's composure cracked. He slammed his fist on the table. This is twisted. She's twisting everything. But the damage was done. Everyone had heard. During recess, I stepped into the hallway, my body trembling. Nisha hugged me tightly. You did it, Anita. You stood tall. But I shook my head. It's not over. Not yet. Because I knew men like Raghav. Humiliated in public, they didn't back down. They retaliated. The next day, I saw it firsthand. A newspaper article planted by his side painting me as mentally unstable. A whisper campaign among relatives that I was vindictive, ruining Arav's future. Even neighbors began to look differently at me, their smiles tinged with pity or judgment. For a moment, doubt crept in. Was I strong enough to withstand not just the legal war, but the social one? But then Arav hugged me, his little voice whispering, "Don't cry, Mama. You're my hero." And I knew I could endure anything. Back in court, the custody battle heated up. Raghav's lawyer argued that I was emotionally unstable and that Arav needed the stable environment Raghav could provide. Stable environment. The words burned like acid. When my turn came, I stood. My hands shook, but my voice did not falter. I may not have wealth like Raghav. I may not have powerful relatives backing me. But I have something he doesn't: truth. And love. Arav is not a pawn in a business deal. He is a child who deserves safety, honesty, and care. I will never use him as a weapon. Can my husband say the same? Silence. Even the judge seemed to pause. In that moment, I saw Raghav's mask finally slip. His arrogance wavered. His eyes burned with hatred, but also with fear. Weeks passed as the case dragged on. Each hearing exposed more. Each witness chipped away at the image of the perfect husband Raghav had crafted. One afternoon, an employee from his office testified, confirming that Kavya wasn't just a colleague, but his partner in both business and betrayal. Another day, a handwriting expert confirmed the forged signature on the property papers. Each revelation was another nail in the coffin of his lies. Finally, the day of judgment arrived. The courtroom was packed. Family, neighbors, curious onlookers. Everyone wanted to see the fall of Raghav, the man who once walked with such confidence, now cornered like a trapped animal. The judge's voice filled the room, calm, firm, final. After reviewing all evidence, This court finds clear proof of financial misconduct, forgery, and moral misconduct on the part of Mr. Raghav Anand. Custody of the minor child Arav will remain with his mother, Anita Anand. Division of assets will be conducted under court supervision to ensure fairness. The words hit like thunder. Gasps echoed. Whispers spread. My knees trembled, but relief flooded through me. I had won. Not everything. The scars would never leave. But enough. Enough to rebuild. Enough to protect Arav. Raghav's face turned pale, his fists clenched. For a moment, I thought he might explode right there. But instead, he stormed out, Kavya trailing behind, her face drained of its smugness. The gallery buzzed with murmurs, some sympathetic, some judgmental. But none of it mattered. Because for the first time in years, I felt free. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions. I kept walking, my head high. Nisha squeezed my hand. "It's over, Anita. You did it." I exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping me. Yes, but this victory, it's not just mine. It's for Arav, for every woman told to stay silent, for every betrayal hidden behind closed doors. That night, as I tucked Arav into bed in our new apartment, he smiled sleepily. "Mama, does this mean we're safe now?" Tears filled my eyes, but this time they were tears of relief. I kissed his forehead. "Yes, baby. We're safe, and we'll be happy again, I promise." As he drifted to sleep, I sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. My life had been shattered piece by piece, but I had gathered those pieces and built something stronger. Raghav had tried to destroy me. Instead, he had forged me into steel. And now, the story was mine to write. Though Anita has won the courtroom battle, the scars of betrayal remain. The war seems over, but in her heart she knows men like Raghav never disappear quietly. Victory in the courtroom felt like the end, but deep inside I knew it wasn't. Men like Raghav didn't fade into the background. They lingered like shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The days after the verdict felt strangely quiet. Too quiet. Arav and I settled into our new apartment, a modest 2-bedroom on the 5th floor. It smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. I filled the walls with Arav's drawings, cooked simple meals, and even caught myself humming while cleaning. On the surface, life seemed normal again. But at night, I'd lie awake, listening to every creak in the hallway, every hum of the elevator. My heart pounded at shadows, because silence after a storm is never peace, it's warning. And then it began. One morning, as I walked Arav to school, a neighbor handed me a folded newspaper. "Have you seen this?" she whispered, her eyes filled with pity. On the front page, my face. The headline screamed, "Vindictive Wife Destroys Husband's Career." My stomach dropped. The article twisted everything, painted me as a manipulative gold digger, a woman who used the court system to ruin a hard-working man. I could almost feel Raghav's hand in every word. And when I looked up, I saw the smirks, the whispers from parents outside the school gates. Heat burned my cheeks, shame, anger, rage. But I smiled at Arav, hiding my storm. "Go on, sweetheart. Have a good day." Inside, though, I vowed, Raghav would not win this final battle of reputation. The next weekend it escalated. A strange car parked outside my building. Same car, every night. The same figure inside. Watching. Phone calls came at odd hours. Silent calls, breathing, then laughter, then a click. Raghav wasn't done. He was trying to break me all over again, this time without courtrooms or lawyers. I confided in Nisha. Sitting at her dining table, clutching a steaming cup of chai, I whispered, "He's haunting me, Nisha. Not openly, but in the shadows. He wants me to crack." She reached across, squeezing my hand. "Then don't give him what he wants. You've already beaten him once. Beat him again. This time not in court, but in life." Her words lit a spark. Maybe Raghav's greatest weapon wasn't money or lies. It was fear. And fear only worked if I let it. So I decided, no more hiding. The next time I saw that car parked outside, I walked straight up to it. My pulse raced, palms sweating, but I forced myself forward. The window rolled down. And there he was, Raghav, His smile was cold. You think you've won, Anita? This isn't over. I steadied my voice, though my heart trembled. You're right, Raghav. It isn't over. Because I'm not done rebuilding. And you're only sinking deeper. For a moment I saw it. The flicker of doubt in his eyes. My defiance unsettled him. He revved the engine, muttered something under his breath, and sped off. I stood there in the street, chest heaving, but a strange strength surged inside me. For the first time, I had confronted my fear directly. But Raghav didn't stop. A week later, Arav came home from school in tears. Mama, kids said Papa told everyone you're a liar. They said you tricked the judge. My heart shattered. Not for me, but for him. For my little boy, caught in the crossfire of a war he never asked for. That night, as he slept, I sat by his bedside, my hands shaking. Raghav had crossed a line. He wasn't just trying to break me anymore. He was trying to poison Arav's heart. And I couldn't allow that. I called Mr. Sharma the next morning. I want to file for a restraining order. Full. He cannot come near us, near Arav's school, near my workplace. Nothing. Mr. Sharma hesitated. It will provoke him further. I clenched my jaw. Let it. He's already provoking me. This time I'll strike first. The paperwork began. And as soon as Raghav received notice, the phone calls stopped. The car vanished. The smear articles died down. For a while, silence again. But silence, I had learned, was only the eye of the storm. One evening, while cooking dinner, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Me walking Arav to school that morning. My blood ran cold. Another photo followed. Me standing on the balcony, folding laundry. And then, a final message. I will never let you live in peace. I dropped the phone, my whole body trembling. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was stalking. The next day I went to the police. I showed them the photos, the messages. The officer nodded gravely. We'll file a case. But these men, they know how to slip through cracks. I left with papers in hand, but no guarantee of safety. That night, I triple-locked every door, pulled the curtains tight, and still couldn't sleep. Every creak felt like footsteps. Every shadow felt like him. But as I sat there in the dark, I realized something. I was tired of reacting. Tired of waiting for the next blow. If Raghav wanted to play this game, I would finish it. Once and for all, the plan formed slowly, carefully. I documented everything. Every message. Every call. Every whispered threat. I reached out to a journalist, one who had written sympathetic pieces about women facing harassment. I told her everything. Gave her every file, every shred of proof. If he wants to fight in the shadows, I told her, my voice steady, then I'll drag him into the light. 2 weeks later, the story broke. Businessman harasses ex-wife despite court ruling. This time, the spotlight wasn't on me. It was on him. News channels picked it up. Social media exploded. Support poured in from strangers. Women who said, "You're telling our story too." Raghav's carefully built image crumbled overnight. Investors pulled out. His company's board demanded explanations. For the first time, he was the one hiding. But I wasn't done yet. Because revenge isn't just about destroying someone else, it's about reclaiming yourself. So I started small. I enrolled in a training course for digital marketing. I wanted to stand on my own feet, not live off settlements or sympathy. I painted again, something I hadn't done since before marriage. Colors filled my evenings, canvases covered my walls, and slowly, laughter returned to my home. Arav's giggles while we painted together, Nisha's jokes over dinner, even my own smile in the mirror. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, and then, one evening, months later, I saw him again. Raghav, not in court, not in the shadows, but in a crowded marketplace. His shoulders hunched, his clothes crumpled, his eyes hollow. For a moment, he looked almost human. He froze when he saw me. For a heartbeat, we stood locked in silence. Then he muttered, "Are you happy now, Anita?" "You ruined me." My hands trembled, but my voice was calm. "No, Raghav. You ruined yourself. I only stopped you from ruining us." And with that, I walked away. For the first time, I didn't feel fear or anger or even hatred. I felt free. That night, as I tucked Arav into bed, he whispered, "Mama, are we finally okay?" I kissed his forehead. "Yes, baby, we are." Because it was true. Raghav was no longer my story. He was just a chapter. A painful one, but over. The rest of the story belonged to me. I looked out the window, the city lights flickering like stars. My voice trembled, but with pride this time. To every woman who's listening, don't let betrayal define you. Don't let fear silence you. You are stronger than you know. Stronger than the lies, the whispers, the shadows. I smiled through tears. My name is Anita, and this is not just the story of how I survived betrayal. It's the story of how I discovered myself. If my story touched you, don't forget to subscribe. And tell me, where are you listening from? I walked away from Raghav that evening in the marketplace. And for the first time in years, I didn't look back. No fear, no anger, no chains, just freedom. Life after him wasn't suddenly perfect. There were bills to pay, nights when loneliness pressed heavy on my chest, mornings when Arav asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. But there was also peace. And peace, after years of chaos, felt like luxury. I began painting again, filling canvases with colors I once thought I'd forgotten. Shades of red for rage, blue for sorrow, gold for resilience. Each brushstroke healed me in ways words never could. I took freelance work in digital marketing, late nights spent hunched over my laptop, teaching myself, stumbling, learning. And slowly, money began to flow, not much, but enough to know I was standing on my own feet. Every time Arav saw me working, his little voice filled with pride. "Mama, you're so strong." And I smiled, because for once, I believed it. But healing wasn't just about rebuilding. It was about forgiving myself. For years, I had blamed myself for not seeing the signs, for staying too long, for letting Raghav's lies define me. One night, staring into the mirror, I whispered to my reflection, "It wasn't your fault." The words felt strange at first, but then they settled into my chest like truth. Raghav's name still appeared in the news sometimes. Failed ventures, lawsuits, his empire shrinking, his reputation in ashes. And though a part of me once dreamed of watching him crumble, I didn't feel triumph anymore. Just distance. He was no longer my story, I was. That spring, Arav and I visited my parents. It had been years since I'd stepped into that old courtyard, the smell of jasmine and earth wrapping around me like an embrace. My mother held me tight, tears spilling silently. "You're home, Beta." For a moment, I was that little girl again, safe, loved, whole. And as Arav ran across the yard, his laughter ringing out, I realized something. I hadn't just survived betrayal. I had rewritten my destiny. The journey wasn't easy. It never is. But with every battle, every scar, I had discovered strength I never knew I carried. Strength to walk away, strength to fight back, strength to rise again. And if you're listening right now, if you've ever felt trapped, broken, silenced, know this. You are stronger than the storm that tried to drown you. Don't let betrayal define you. Don't let fear own you. Because freedom is worth every step. This is my story. The story of how I fell, how I fought, and how I found myself again. And if my voice reached you tonight, if my journey touched even a corner of your heart, don't forget to subscribe, because more stories are waiting. Stories of strength, stories of survival, stories that remind us all we are never truly alone. I kissed Arav goodnight, his small hand curled in mine. Outside the window, the city lights glimmered like stars. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt at peace.